I want to say welcome to your Monday Morning Roast. I'm your host, Joe Webb, along with my co-hosts and best industry friends, Bill Playford, Brent Wees, David Hudson, and Eric Miltsch. This is our 8th episode, and our show is the equivalent of gathering around the old water cooler, coffee in hand, catching up on each other's weekends, discussing current events, and how we feel about things such as life, love, and almost never talk about work. If you have something to say on our topic, share a relevant story, or ask us questions, just drop in your request to join in the comments. We may direct message you a link to join us on video, just so you know you will be subjected to a question or two in return, and maybe even a light roast, hence your Monday Morning Roast. Cheers, boys.
Cheers, everybody. Good to see you.
Cheers, y'all.
That's for today's episode.
Was that a motivational quote?
Good man, great dad. Because you can't be good at both.
Oh,
So, by the way,
kids.
yeah.
See? Lovely
Nice.
children.
I can fit them all in one mug.
Just the four. Just the four, though. Right?
Just the 4 on that mug. The other 9 are on the other 3 mugs.
In the treehouse. Today's sponsor is Bert's Jellies and Jams. So good you can't tell the difference. Don't like jam? Try some jelly. All natural preservatives and a heaping of sugar gets the day started right. Since 2016, Bert's Jellies and Jams, right on the outskirts of Soap Dispenser, Washington. So I want to hear on today's topics, how was your weekend and what did you do for Father's Day? And I'd like to start with you, Eric.
I had the boys over. Cooper came over. It was really exciting to see them. Susan made one of her famous brunches. Just a ton of good food. It was great to see. It was great to see them. And if I can, I'll take a second here. I was super excited because Cooper just got back from Washington, D.C. Dave, remember I was telling you about the cartoon he made? Well,
Yeah.
Got I don't even know. It's like 4 million views on YouTube. Got noticed. Got picked up. They got asked to join this new studio out of Washington, D.C. that's popping up. I guess they got like $25 million that's been raised for this company. Bunch of big name Hollywood actor type producer people. Just really, really cool. And they went down there, and then looks like they're going to be moving to D.C. and they're going to start this company up down there and just making content for streaming platforms. It's just awesome to see. Just really exciting.
Very cool. I saw it. It's awesome. Really awesome stuff.
Yeah,
How old is Cooper, too?
70 years old.
21.
That's incredible. He had so much more promise at 21 than any of us did.
Yeah, he's beyond his years.
All of us did.
Yeah, he's beyond his years in terms of motivation, time management, just his focus. I mean, he started
His hair bangs is miles.
It's actually cut it. It's pretty short now, but it's
really. You can see his face now.
Yeah, you actually can.
He was like the dude on Horton Hears a Who, the son on Horton Hears a Who. Got all the bangs just like hanging down.
Which is a wildly underrated animated movie, by the way.
Yeah, but it's just awesome to see your kids doing stuff that they love, and to be able to support them. That's all you can ask for, and especially right now, with all this craziness going on, he's just beaming, and so it makes me happy and makes Susan happy to see the kids, doing what they love and chasing a dream like that. That's literally what he's been doing since he was, like a freshman in high school when he wanted to start doing this stuff. So to see it all come together like that, I couldn't be happier. So very cool.
That's awesome.
Excellent. Brett, what'd you do this weekend, and what'd you do for Father's Day?
Bought some deodorant on Saturday.
Big day. It's not even October.
No, it's not. It's not even fall yet. So I've already got the provision set for winter. Bought some cookies on Saturday, some deodorant, went for a walk, ate some nachos, spent some time in a park yesterday with Maggie for Father's Day, ate some gelato.
Nice.
That's it. Sat out on the deck, sat outside all weekend, just did chill out stuff. Because I co-parent, it was her mom's weekend, but of course Jackie was nice enough to open up the day. So like I said, I don't know, Father's Day is cool and all, but I get to hang out with Maggie all the time, so I don't put a lot of I tell everyone not to put a lot of steak in it. But so Maggie and I just hung out, and we do what we do. We hung out under a tree in the shade and talked about life for a while, and that was good enough for me. So, you know, when I get that kind of time with Maggie, just to do that stuff with her, that's badass.
Yep.
Excellent.
And I bought deodorant.
Yeah, big day for the. I mean, just
I ate some nachos.
Just one bar lasts you a year.
I'm not wearing any right now, so I'm already saving. I'm already making money on the purchase.
Yeah, we can tell. So,
Yeah.
Bill, how was your weekend?
That was good. You know, kind of getting reacclimated to be able to visit people, which is nice. So my wife had to work on Saturday, so we kind of got things kicked off a little bit later. But we went and visited my in-laws, and the kids got to hang out with their cousins. They got to go swimming. And outside of some great political conversation that I'd rather forget, it was a really good day. But I love living close to our family. You know, it's a choice, you know, but it's really cool to see like how my kids and their cousins are able to go play and have fun and go swimming together and just have a good time. And then yesterday I went to my folks and had dinner, and my daughter's godfather just kind of surprised, like, rolled by. So we had to get to have a good time there. So just all in all, it was a great weekend hanging out with family, which is, I think, what everybody would like to do on Father's Day, except maybe brag about their kids a little bit more, Eric. And then, but other than that, it was great.
Someone was going to say it.
So
I'm proud of your kids too, Eric. Though I hope my kids get that far.
I'm proud of them too, except for Parker. That guy's a deadbeat.
and Eric's always said, Parker's the one that's more like me, and Cooper's more like
Parker has a full head of hair.
Yeah.
They do.
So I was going to ask Dave, but I guess I'll wait because the one thing I'll say about like fatherhood in regard to Eric's story is, I think in other foreign countries, and I see it, you know, based on who I live with, in a lot of nations, you are always trying to gain your parents' respect. And you're always trying to do right by your parents. And your job when you get older is to take care of your parents. And I'm sure Eric's excited that, you know, Cooper one day will be able to afford a nursing home in the next 5-6 years for Eric and Susan based on their, you know, age bracket. But I'd say at the same time, what fatherhood, I think in the States, it's all about, we need to provide a better, more comfortable experience for our kids. And we need to almost have some level of legacy success to provide our kids, to give them a foundation for growth. And I think that's one of the, you know, that is, you know, one of the big.
Or make them go out and get a job.
Yeah, well,
That
listen,
too.
I mean, hey, does Maggie have a job? How old is she? 13?
Yeah, she just actually dropped her. She's 15. She's going to turn 16 in a couple weeks. Wow. And our deal is that she can have my little Scion IQ car on her 17th birthday, as long as at that time she's got a part-time job, she's saving money, and she's got enough, because she's got to pay for gas and insurance, and I'll give her the car. The car's paid out. But no, she just dropped her resume off at the local grocery store just to walk down the street from her. She's got to have a job. Yes. None of this, you know, just sit around and be a kid and helicopter bullshit. It's like, go, like my parents, the second my parents could pump me out to the newspaper to carry papers, I was like 11 years old, and they were like dragging me to the newspaper, you know, depot in town so I could deliver papers. My mom lied on an application so I could have a part-time job in high school, because I had to be 16 to get this job. My mom's like, no, you just put this. So, you know, we always worked.
No, hey, I bagged groceries young, and I always had some sort of entrepreneurial thing going, trying to make some money. Dave, how was your weekend? What'd you do for Father's Day as well?
So weekend's good. I played on Friday at the Chubby Bullfrog. Chubby Frog, everybody.
Yep, saw it. I mean, here, listen, okay, I'm going to pick on you. Why do you start filming on Facebook Live as you start setting up? Because it's really just 20 minutes of you setting up.
So what? I'll do what the fuck I want. Who are you to tell me?
Because everybody else is annoying.
I'll do whatever the fuck I want. Everybody else don't tell me shit.
This is so much better than the topic.
Nobody can hear anything.
Smoke that. Smoke that.
Nobody can hear anything.
That's how I do.
Like,
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
So anyway, but before
thanks for really good watching. Continue.
Listen, before I went, Sarah surprised me with a new fire pit. She bought all the material, built it out with a friend, and my good friend John Franzen helped out. So I came home to that. That was awesome.
That's awesome.
Saturday, I watched the UFC. A buddy of mine is a UFC Hall of Fame fighter, Clay Guida. So watched him and then watched all of UFC. That was exciting. And then yesterday, Sarah took me and Alex to Channel Lakes, and we went canoeing. And then had some beer and Mexican food right on the lake. So it was a great day, great weekend, and somehow, of course, some housework, all that as well. So
That's pretty badass, though. Fire pit's good.
That's awesome.
I hope to use it tonight, but we got some rain, so we'll see.
Yeah, we've got a propane fire pit right in our lanai. So we'll say we've probably only used it. Well, we sit around all the time, but we actually only used it maybe 3 or 4 times now, where we pump it up and let the fire go. And but it's calming. I do think something about a fire burning, so long as it's not out of control, is calming. Yeah, I mean, I will say it's sort of, and it's not a joke because sometimes I get a little disappointed, sometimes I get a little sad, but Father's Day in my house is not like any other day, is like every other day. Short of the kids usually handwriting me a note that just says Happy Father's Day on it, nothing heartfelt or anything. I just usually get something that says Happy Father's Day with that they drew up in crayon that morning, and everything else is the same. It's like I still, go swim with the kids, watch a movie with the kids. I grill out. I do stuff. I mean, like nothing changes. The running joke on Father's Day is I'd love to actually take a trip on Father's Day somewhere and or do something special to celebrate the day, because I do fancy myself a good or great dad, that I feel like maybe I deserve more. And James mentioned it in the comments that I did James Klaus, that I did a Vine way back in the day of the difference between Mother's Day and Father's Day. Because Mother's Day, it's like, woman's leaving the house. She's like, oh no, this is Mother's Day. I'm going to the spa. I'm getting my hair done, my nails done. I'm going to get my facial. I'm going to go out for the day. I'm going to have some brunch. I'm going to do this. I'm going to meet my friends. I'm getting out of this house. This is my day. And then for Father's Day, it's like, whoa, you can't go anywhere. Don't you want to spend some time with your family? It's Father's Day. You got to be with kids. So it is wild. So I have made a joke that like Father's Day, I'd love to go somewhere and do something special, because it's really not viewed in my house as anything special. And it does hurt my feelings. I will say that. But with that said, I want to talk a little bit about fatherhood, if I can, because I think listen, all 4 of us, 5 of us come from different backgrounds. We all think alike. We all laugh alike. Usually people like each other's sense of humors. Maybe not Bill this morning. But everything else, we get along. But the one thing that really unites us, and definitely one of the things that really connected Dave and I above and beyond just a good friendship, is our belief system and how important it is to be a dad. And Father's Day being a day behind us, I'd love to just go around the room and let's talk about fatherhood if we can, and talk about what fatherhood means to us, and more importantly, what it means to be a great dad, what being a father means to you. So I'd love to hear from, Brent, because I know Brent always has a lot to say. Brent, what does fatherhood mean to you?
That's a good one. I was actually talking to someone Saturday night, and over here, Lisa's her friend Sinead was over, and I can't remember what we were talking about. It was something to do with having kids and having moments of like, what part of raising a kid do you get really fearful? And I said, oh, you're scared to death the minute you drive them home from the hospital, and it never stops. And they I don't get it. It's like, no, there's not like one isolated time. It's all the time. And it's the profound thing about being a parent that comes on when you hear it from other people, and people say, oh, it really does change your views on a lot of things. It really can. And I shouldn't say it for everyone, because there's a lot of douche or moms and dads out there that aren't good parents. But I think for parents that are trying, I think I think for the most part, you live in this constant state of fear of you don't want anything bad to happen to them. You don't want people to treat them poorly. You just want them to have, things that are memorable to them, that are pleasant. And again, maybe that is the thing that sort of sparks this whole helicopter parent thing. But you just want them to grow up with a sense of self-worth and everything else. But I said, as a parent, you constantly live in different states of anxiety and fear about your kids, and that's the foundational point about being a parent. But being a dad, it's being a single dad now, and I know Hudson has been through this too and gone through it. So there's a real pride in seeing that your kids are as adjusted as they are coming through something like that and are able to continue to find their own way and not sort of sit in the past of what's happened. I'm like Maggie's remarkable that way. So for me, being a parent and having someone in those formative years of their early teens and seeing how they're approaching things and seeing how she's tackling things by the conversation she has with me and with her mom and her own peer group and with Lisa inside, like those are the things that just keep reminding me to keep things to the most common denominator and don't candy coat stuff and be honest with my own approach to how I feel, but also my own, but to her approach is, becoming the person that she's becoming. So that for me is just fatherhood. It's just keeping my candor as honest as possible with her. So she grows into the person she needs to be and not trying to, be something I'm not.
Are any of you, because you touched on something, I mean, both of you guys, well, not both, David and Brent have gone through a divorce, which I've always heard has got to be like one of the most traumatic and ruthless, tough experiences.
Like jumping off a cliff every day.
Yeah. So what I will say, are any of you from a divorced home? Did your parents ever get divorced?
No.
I am.
Yeah, my parents split and got back together, but they were apart for a while.
Right. Yeah. And I have one of my other real close friends did the exact same. His folks split for a couple of years, got back together, and David and I as well are from homes with divorces, and the thing that my father apparently said at one point, because he was living in Chicago, we were living in Cincinnati with my mother, my sister and I, and he was commuting back and forth, and they stayed married because my mom didn't want to just keep moving as my father moved around for his work. But he just said he knew that he would be a better father away, like divorced, than he would be together. And I think that it does sort of say a lot in regard to how you raise kids. I was blessed with with a great stepdad and an amazing father as well, and now I have a great father-in-law, even if he doesn't say much ever because of language barriers. He's been nothing but nice and supportive and helpful. So I will say I do think it's sort of, how much would you say, or maybe none, do you feel how your parents raised you, how your father behaved or raised you, has played a role in how you've grown up, or maybe things that you've overcome, or what? So, I mean, I can go with Eric. Okay, maybe I can skip her a little bit. So I'll skip Eric right now. I was just looking at yours because you haven't said anything yet. David, how would you say your father and how he lives his life has impacted you for the better or worse?
Your dad was a Vietnam vet, airborne ranger. And he came from a real difficult background. So it was tough for him to, be cool a lot of the time. So he was gone and very scary growing up. The side note, that face, yeah. My dad and I would go out together, and he was a handsome man, and women were always flocking to him. And so we'd be out together, and I'd see him like sizing a woman up, and this was his face. I couldn't believe it. He'd look at her going like this. Down. Yeah.
So David, I do that all the time ever since he told me that story.
So when I was younger, it was difficult for him to relate. and he was still just kind of getting over that. PTSD wasn't even a phrase back then,
Mm-hmm.
As I got older and I was in college, our relationship really started becoming much better, and we'd taken vacations together. And, the thing he always told me was, one, make money. So whatever you got to do, you got to make sure you're making money, because people, your family will have a difficult time if you don't. He always loved me and told me so. And I do that same with my son. He was gone a lot. I didn't want to be that for my son. Even though we got divorced, I'm with him a lot. I tell him I love him constantly. I give him a lot of freedom. He goes and skates downtown Elgin every day. And so I think that I was more, I don't know, so I really want to make sure that my son didn't have some of those frightening experiences I did as a kid. And I don't blame him, and it was tough. It's tough, but
Yeah.
it was scary when I was young.
Bill,
But it's not. I don't think for
Bill,
adults.
how do you feel that your father and how he lived his life, it has impacted you?
I mean, I don't think that at the time I wasn't probably the best kid in the world. We didn't have a very good relationship growing up. I think I didn't learn till after the fact, to really appreciate what my dad went through. But I got to tell you, I probably learned more from other people's dads. You didn't really get a sense of how your parent is until you have a chance to compare them against other people. And I mean, so I went to a couple different colleges, and one was a bunch of kind of spoiled automotive executives kids whose parents were never around. Their parents are taking these vacations to France and everything else, and somebody else raised them. So their idea of parenthood was a little different than mine. Then I went to it, I transferred to a private school and got to kind of see the other half and how they lived, or another portion and how they lived. But the one thing that really stuck with me is sort of like just being around. And I think what Brent and Dave, especially, and Joe talked about was just being intentional. Like, you have to make a decision. And I think I learned a really valuable lesson about like what it means to be a father, unfortunately through a real dickhead kid from school, but he was a very spoiled kid. Dad, I don't know what he did, but he was very, very wealthy. Sent his kid to military school because he probably didn't want him around. And then he went on to school. So he drove this really fast Mustang, raised all kinds of hell on campus all the time. And me being an RA, and working with all the, kind of other RAs and the security guys there on campus, like, you gotta fucking slow down, dude. You're gonna kill somebody, and this guy just raised hell continuously. So later on that semester, he hit a dip in the road. His car went airborne, went sideways, and he hit a tree sideways and damn near killed the guy next to him. He hit the B-pillar of the car so hard with his head that it gave him an internal head injury. So it was pretty touch and go for a while. Comes back to campus, surprisingly, re goes back to college. You could tell he's a little messed up from it. What's his dad do? Buys him a new Mustang.
Another Mustang.
Buys another Mustang. Yep. And
Faster, even faster one.
But we could see the writing on the wall. Like, this kid was going to kill himself in this car, or somebody else. Damn near did both those things. And what's his dad do? Buys him a new Mustang. And so, that just really stuck with me growing up. And I'm like, look, do I want to be that dad who is so wealthy and just, all has this whole world as his oyster?
Clearly, the insurance premium on like whatever thing he had out on this kid.
Well,
just keep giving him a car until he can cash in on that.
But essentially, just told this kid to kind of fuck off on his own without saying so directly, and was forced to raise himself. I didn't want to be one of those dads, and it like that was one of those things that really drove it home for me. And then when I found myself kind of on that same trajectory, and I might go a little more later, but I almost missed my son's almost premature birth because I was away on business. That really hit home, and I kind of like, okay, I got to make a choice, and it's a decision you have to make. It's a choice.
You made
And then knowing that, going through all that stuff, and then looking back at the choices my dad made, compounded by getting up, an age and, crippling anxiety about raising your family and all those things. Like now it's like, then it all gelled and then it all made sense. You're like, holy shit, my dad was a machine for going through all the stuff he went through.
Eric, you wanted to say something?
I said Bill at least made the other 9 births.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, and I will say, from a fatherhood perspective, my father traveled a lot, and I remember I used to say that, I never wanted to allow business time to take away from family time. But the truth is, I very much feel I've followed in my father's footsteps, not in the amount of success that he had by any means. I'll never reach that level. But, I do find myself traveling, but, to visit clients, because that's sort of the role that's been cut out for me, that I did to myself. It's part of the game of which we play in automotive. And I know I'd be traveling so much more if I worked for almost any other organization out there. So the fact that I can pick and choose when I go away, that has allowed me some freedom. And it's not like I'm working, 65 hours inside of a store that would take away all that time from my family as well. I have made a conscious effort based on, my father being away and my folks getting divorced, to try to be as when it's family time, I try to be as gung-ho about family time as humanly possible. Like, I do believe that fatherhood is a responsibility. Like, I believe it's a responsibility that you, not just a responsibility, it's one that you have to, like, appreciate. Like, it's one you have to covet and appreciate to do it right. You need to enjoy all the things. You need to enjoy giving the baths. You need to enjoy the nighttime feedings when they're babies. You need to enjoy reading them books to go to bed. You need to enjoy it because it's the only way to get through this thing sane.
I remember when Alex was born, I felt that I finally and legitimately joined the human race. Like everything else before that was just like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. But when Alex was born, I felt like, wow, man, it felt as if somehow I'd gone back in time or something. It was just such a strange, amazing feeling. And I love that kid so much. The tough part is, I got divorced, and oh man, heartbreaking. I remember he said, wait a second, divorced means not married anymore? Oh, fuck.
Yeah. I remember I was there through all of that. I remember you and I having that conversation as well. That's a tough one because I will say at least I think my parents and my mother's on the thread, but I think the divorce was either finalized or they filed on my 13th birthday. This doesn't have anything to do with you, Joe. But
I think you're wrong.
Yeah, I know. Right. But I will say, I would like to think
Here's a card.
I always acted out. I think most young, asshole, stupid kid males act out. I do think, I'll say, I know my sister struggled with it. I know she probably still struggles with it to this day. So I think much depends on, and we were brought up in a lot of ways the same way, but I think a lot of it depends on what you're emotionally capable of handling. And most specifically the age of like how old you were when these things happened.
Yeah.
But from a fatherhood perspective, like I couldn't even imagine not being able, credit to Brent and David, and I know how much you guys love your kids. I couldn't even imagine not being able to see my boys whenever the heck I want.
Mm-hmm.
Just couldn't even grasp it. They're literally, I think, not to get emotional, but I think they're the reason I breathe. And I will get probably a couple of you on.
Well, that evolution.
Well, yeah, I mean, what I'll say here, listen, I will say one thing. Like I might have been baptized Catholic, and I went to church, off and on growing up and stuff. But so religion was always sort of there. But I've said this, and I know I've said this to Dave and probably Bill, but when I held Timmy in my hands the first time, my wife was a C-section, so they were cleaning her up. They handed me to him right away, and they said, he's got something where I have to start feeding him. Like 7 minutes after he's born, I have to start feeding him for some reason, for some blood sugar or something. and I'm just all alone. And in that moment, you hold your child right off the bat. You promise the entire world to them. And I will say, I didn't fully know or maybe truly believe that there was a God up until the moment I really looked at him and held him and he looked at me. But there is something that I do not believe chemicals can explain. There is an energy between my oldest and I that I knew for a fact that what I was feeling was something beyond this world, was something that has carried along a long time. And I have that feeling. I have the feeling for both of the kids, but it wasn't until I held Timmy for the first time that I truly believed there was a God. I mean, that's
I think though that it's growth. I think one thing you know when all this stuff happens is, and I think we all had probably similar emotions and stuff like that. But it's like the way that you level up. It's like almost like a video game. It's like all of a sudden you're like, I'm 2 inches taller. I got 20 pounds more muscle. I have superpowers. I didn't even know I had them. You know what I mean? And then in the case for us, to have more than one kid, it's like, holy shit, I have more superpowers. And then, so it's like people ask how you cope and how you put up with things, or, how do you make time or all those things. And, you just do it. That's a lot of it. You just have to.
So,
I mean, Eric's got
yourself a lot of superpowers then.
No, that's the thing. But I think Eric, he's got 2 kids. I mean, how did you feel after the second kid was born? I think that's another question.
They don't even take pictures of the second kid. Go to Eric's house. There's not one picture of Cooper up anywhere.
It's just a bunch of swords hanging on the wall, and that's it.
Just swords and a bunch of dogs and Parker. But there's no visual evidence that Cooper exists. Second kid syndrome.
Sounds like he's going to let everybody know he exists sometime here soon.
Yeah, exactly. That's why he was saying this at the start, because he feels bad because there's no pictures from Sears on the wall.
Yeah,
you're terrible, Eric.
Cooper's next cartoon is going to be a real anti-father. It's going to be a beer-swinging bald.
Fuck you, Dad.
No, it was different. I mean, obviously everybody experiences that where the kids are so so opposite. I was still so young and naive at the time. So when we brought the second one home, when we bring Cooper home, I was just expecting obviously him to behave like the first one. I would assume a lot of parents go through that. And then instantly you realize, like, holy crap, this is a completely different kid, and he's got completely different mannerisms. And Parker was the wild one, Cooper was the quiet one. And at the time, Susan was working evenings and nights at the hospital, so I was home alone. And I would basically take Cooper, swaddle him all up, and say, all right, little buddy, I got to take care of the other one, so you got to go to bed. And put him in bed. We did that thing where we played like Tchaikovsky, on loop, and it was always playing nonstop, and he just lulled to sleep. And I think that to this day, we credit that as why he's still so independent. And he just literally lived in his crib at night because, by himself, because I was taking care of Parker. He was the wild one, like I said. But I tell you, my first moment, I was just like true proud parent, when he was born. The doctor, Susan had a C-section, doctor pulled Parker out of the belly, and she holds her up. She holds him up, and he was late, so he was real pasty and flaky, and still all the stuff all over the hand. And the glove, or the doctor's glove, also had it. But the way there was a photo that was taken, and her middle finger was up in the crotch, so when she was holding it, it looked like he had a giant penis, obviously. And in the photo, as soon as I saw that picture,
he's not mine.
He's not mine at all.
But I think, as Joe said, we have that responsibility as parents, and as fathers to. I've always viewed it as I just have to teach. My parents didn't teach me things, in terms like life lessons. And I give the perfect example. It was late 90s, early 2000, my middle brother, I'm out with him, and I don't even think he was, I think he was driving already, but still, we went to the gas station, and I said, all right, you pump the gas, I'll run in, I'll pay for it, I'll get the snacks and drinks, whatnot. I come back out, and he's standing there, hasn't done anything yet, and he's still looking at it. He goes, I go, what are you doing? You pump yet? You fill it up? And he goes, no, I didn't do it yet. I wasn't sure what year you wanted. I said, what are you talking about? He's like, well, the year. Did you want 94, 97, 99? I'm like, wait a minute. You think the octane levels are years? This isn't wine.
This isn't a PASH conference.
It's like, oh, yeah, go with the 97 octane. That was a good year. Yeah, I was like, no.
What a jerk.
It's like,
I left him there. I never seen him since.
the point is, he never even learned that. I'm like, those are, just little things. So I make it a point, at least multiple times a week, still to this day. I text both of the boys, and I just start a simple conversation, and I try to at least I don't want to helicopter them, obviously, but I'm still trying to just teach them something, anything that's going on.
Always.
Remember who you are, son.
Yeah, that's what we have to do. We have to guide them.
My mom was that person though. Like my dad worked all the time and always provided, was like he had his moments of being a dick, but also had his moments of being a good dad. I think he got along better with my younger brothers. My dad and I, throughout my teens and into my 20s, did not gel. But he did, you know what I mean? He did what he was supposed to do. But when you, like what Eric's saying about lessons and like educating your kids, that was all Marge. Like she had this sort of, she comes from a Scottish background. She was, she doesn't have a Scottish accent at all, but that's her background. And they're just really cut and dry and blunt about what is what. And,
cheap, very cheap.
Yeah, she's cheap. Like, no, she's not cheap, but her dad was. But Stu was really cheap. But he had 5 daughters, so he had to be cheap. But even when we were really young kids, I was telling Lisa the other day about this series of books we had, even as like really young kids, just about reproduction and about why people are handicapped and about race. And this was like, I'm talking like the very early 70s, a series of books. And like, that was the kind of stuff my mom was subjected us to. And then, I mentioned this before, right? She was the one that sat down with me and watched Deer Hunter, right? To show me sort of like, to David's point about his dad and PTSD and what, to understand other facets of things. My mom was always very clear and very eager to walk us either through her own experience or, and my mom had some things going for her in her teens and different things that she was able to share with us that I think for, as a parent goes, not that either one of them, did something right or something wrong. It was just my mom seemed to be that educator. But yeah. I think to Eric's point, that's gold, because I think now I have the same relationship with Maggie because of the way my mom just addressed me with things. There's no sugarcoating anything.
That's what I was actually going to ask you guys. I mean, you mentioned that before, you do that with Maggie, and I am much in the same way. I'm very blunt. My kids ask me a complicated question, I give them an answer back. And I don't try to sugarcoat or make it like a cartoon or anything.
I get in trouble for that a lot when I tell just like truthful answers.
Well, Maggie, I've got a 16-year-old daughter going to high school and I've told her flat out, I said, I was a 16-year-old boy. And she said it to me. She goes like, every boy at our school just wants to have sex with the girls. Like, that's all they want to do right now. And I said, yeah, you're pretty much on target. And I said, and they don't know what they're doing. They have no idea what they're doing, but they're also set up in this world of their friends talking shit about what they've done. And I said to her, guess what? None of these bozos have done fucking anything. But she's living in this weird sort of concept of everyone's hormones are raging. Her friends are, all the guys are. I said to her, you're really lucky you're dating this super nice guy whose parents are way more strict than we are. But we just have these frank conversations about what she knows about what's going on at school, the double standard of if she should decide, like a friend of hers decided, she and her boyfriend decided to start having sex, and that's their decision as young adults to do that. But she saw right away how much people just talk about that because there's someone now in school that's done it. And, her friend like this friend of hers, the way people talk about her, and Maggie saw that and sees the double standard of it. It's like, that's their business. It's their mistake to talk to other people about it. But that's why I said, so I have really frank conversations with my daughter about all this stuff, because I'm like, what's the use of drawing it back or being safe about it or whatever, because all that's going to happen is you're going to misinform your kid about something that they could really use in a moment where they have to be brave about something, right? And they have to maybe speak up about themselves, male or female, and set their own boundaries, right? There's all sorts of different ways kids can get into trouble. But if you just talk to them like the young adult they are, instead of candy coating it or shielding it from it, they're going to be better off.
I mean, and I will say, first of all, that's one of the reasons I guess I'm thankful I don't have a daughter is I've always said like, the joke is a son you only have to worry about one penis. A girl, you have to worry about all
the
penises.
penises.
But with that said, like there's going to be a moment in every father's life that has a girl where a boy is absolutely going to shatter her and shatter her emotional core, and she will think that the world is ending. She'll think there's no reason to go on, no matter what. I think that happens to every single girl.
Hey, but
and
girls can do that to dudes too, though. Let's not
okay.
gender identify going, well, girls are weak, because like girls are more emotionally mature at this age to date and want to date and grab heavy feelings. You're right. But I also think, though, I think it goes to both ends of the spectrum. I think at this age, I think a girl can completely shatter a dude too.
Yeah,
but I get what you're saying, Joe. I do understand.
But I think that goes to the candy coating. I mean, I know, Dave, you're going to say something too, but I think that's the stuff you got to, we've all gone through it, and it's sad to hear just Brent talking about it. It's like, oh, it's just a repetitive cycle. It just never ends, no matter
the double
how much
standard
programming we all get, after the fact, like it still happens. But,
and well, Bill's hearing it from Brent because Eleanor is so young, she's got 12 years on Eleanor for the most part.
Well, no, I mean, explain to my kids right now. It's like, you're going to go through these emotions but it's a broader stock of friendship though, too. Like, when you watch these things on TV, they make it look like your friends from high school are going to be with you the rest of your life. And like, that's all that matters. And it's total bullshit. And like, that's the stuff that like, I feel like, again, like kind of to Eric's point about teaching lessons is like, you're going to talk to 2 people from high school or 3 people if you're lucky. It doesn't matter. You're going to completely invent yourself 2 or 3 times through life.
Yeah. The gender stereotypes too is Eric, like to Bill's concern, right? Bill goes, yeah, it never changes. And it really doesn't. And you can't say it is, because look at the past bunch of weeks when we've been talking about racism and systemic racism and all that. And everyone's going, yeah. And people that have suffered through it have gone, no, nothing's changing. But it's the same with gender roles, especially in high school for kids. It doesn't change. If a girl decides that she's going to be sexually active and she's smart about it, and she educates herself, she's branded the slut while the guy's branded some fucking hero, which is complete and utter bullshit. Like, and I said to my daughter, if you are going to make those decisions to be sexually active and do your things, just make sure you are educated, you've set your boundaries, and you lay the groundwork for what you want, and that's all that goes, right? So if your guy can't get on board with that, then fuck him. He doesn't get to sleep with you.
Well, I mean,
I think that's the reversal though of it, because we have, as parents, we have to say this shit, because if we don't, the same systemic things, like we have to fucking culture our kids to go, you know what? The thing you need to wire into yourself is not to give a fuck what other people think. And I think you see that in like people like Cooper, like meeting Cooper, and the way Cooper was, like I hardly talked to Cooper, but Cooper was okay with that, right? Like we all have kids that are unique, and which one's older, Joe? What? Which one of your guys is older? Timmy's older, right? But you talk to Timmy, and Timmy's got a bit of this, like, yeah, that's great, but I really don't give a fuck about what you think. Like they're on his YouTube channel and stuff. But that's a good thing for kids to have, right? That's the way these stereotypes get broken, is by going, you know what, I'm an individual, and you can stay stuck in, stereotypes and all that shit. But that's the thing, as parents, I think we have to instill is to continually tell our kids that what they're normally hearing most of the day doesn't directly apply to them. It doesn't have to apply to them.
I mean, you glossed over just like the sex talk, which through history has always sort of fallen more in the father, is the sex talk, if you will. And I remember I made probably a sexual innuendo or something when I was driving in a car with my dad when I was 17 years old. And he looks at me and he's like, do I have to have the sex talk with you now? And I said, yeah, a couple years ago would have been nice, Dad. Like, it was glossed over for him. And I'll say my father was really good at teaching me sort of about calmness and logic. Like, that's the 2 things my dad really brought to the table, is like how to be logical in most situations, how to think clearly, and how to be calm when terrible things are happening, such as divorce or whatever, or business. And my stepdad really taught me about sort of responsibilities of fixing things yourself and doing it yourself, and just like a manual labor, if you will. Just from one of the, like, he's the old guy in the rocking chair type of wisdom that he dispenses. And but so while those are two different things that were taught to me. I will say with my kids, I mean, and both of my kids are on the spectrum or whatever, so I think they deal with things entirely different than each other even. But all I can give my kids as a father is unlimited understanding. I probably don't even have the patience that I should, but I know patience is what it takes to be a great dad, in my opinion, patience and understanding. And if I can just show them at all times that I care, maybe teaching them how to do specific things, without getting specific, there are things that my kids do not know how to do that I absolutely know all other kids probably know how to do. And when I try to teach them, it's talking to a brick wall. They have no desire to learn. So it upsets me because I know how, and I knew how. And I think it's maybe certain things are rite of passages as kids. And all I can do as a father, though, is show them unlimited understanding and caring, and the rest will sort itself out.
I'm going to teach my kids, when you're on a webcam, you shouldn't eat sunflower seeds, Eric.
Yeah. If I can, guys, I mean, I know we got 10 minutes. I'd like to do something. I reached out to your individual families and asked them or the kids or one of your kids to write me what they think of what it means to have you as a dad.
Oh boy.
So I just my son, he's so good. I'm always trying to say something motivational and talk through life, and deal with that stuff. And he's so good to let me know all the time. Always saying things like, thanks for everything, Dad. Thanks for always talking to me about these things, and and that just feels so good. Again, coming from the divorced family, you always think I fucked them up. And I know that's what my parents thought. My mom never thought that, I don't think, but I know my dad did. And it was tough, you know what I mean? But I'm just grateful that my son sees that, listen, I really do love life. And listen, I love my two stepkids, and that was a very difficult thing to kind of deal with. It's like, okay, so now these two other kids in my life, and then my son's going, well, what about me? I didn't even know divorced meant not married anymore, and then right away, here we are all circled up, it took 8 years before she finally moved in, so there was a lot of time.
We understand it.
Yeah, you can't blame her either.
She wanted to do it right away. I'm like, you're out of your mind.
Talk about
sure she did.
So I'm just glad that my son is recognizing those things. I'm starting to see he's becoming an individual with his friends that tries to reason it out and talk things out and lay it out, unpack things for people and help them unpack it. So I'm grateful that he's hearing that speech.
Yeah, and I will say from Dave and I's perspective, the amount of times I was a weird father. I wanted to swallow and eat my children whole so I could have them and nobody else could, and I would protect them, and they couldn't get the amount of time how Dave and I, and I'm sure all of us,
like a big block of cheese.
My mouth was on my children more than anybody's mouth will ever be on them the rest of their lives. I don't care how lucky they get. I could not stop kissing and hugging my kids.
Yeah.
And I still do that. Still, I was walking around with a tie in my arms, cradling him in the pool yesterday for 2-3 hours. And I know what it's like. You get superhuman dad strength. You know how strong your left arm is now that you've walked around carrying a 4-year-old who doesn't want to sit in a stroller or doesn't want to walk or anything all day at Disney. It takes superhuman dad strength. My left arm could knock through a wall if I wanted to because of kids. There are things
that's why moms are so damn tough.
Yeah.
To work
Yeah,
out.
man. You got mom strength. That shit's fucked up.
Well, kids make us stronger. I think they make us weaker, and they make us stronger in a lot of ways.
My mom slapped me across the face once, and I swear to God, she cracked vertebrae in my neck.
Once.
I've been punched in the face by my mom before.
Scots are tough too.
Don't mess around.
Had it easy.
Broken wooden spoon. Okay.
Anyway, if I
7
can,
minutes.
I will say I got a little emotional reading some of these, and I'll try to do my best. because I'm reading it from their words. And I'm sure as I'm reading it, you won't be listening to me. You'll be hearing it through your child. And I'm going to start with, we're going to do it alphabetically. So Bill, we're obviously going to start with Henry because he's the youngest. So when Carla asked him about what dad means to me, he said, Dad likes to play Legos with me. Okay? Ella, your daughter, Eleanor, my dad is the best dad because he loves us. He drove me to Princess Night at ballet, just the two of us. He has treat day every Friday to get us snacks. Ethan, my favorite thing Dad and I do is having fun and playing Forza together. He helps me with my Pinewood Derby cars too. Dad is really funny and he loves me. And Andrew, your oldest, wrote, my dad is amazing. He loves all of us and he shows it very well. For example, he'll tell us when he's about to cut the internet so we can finish our calls instead of having them cut off. We like to play Frisbee in the yard together sometimes. He is a very hard worker. He is also very easy to talk to. He even buys us candy every Friday. My dad deserves his own day to do what he wants.
Nice.
So the one thing I will say, credit to your kids, obviously Henry might not understand, is all of them talked about how much you love all of them, you know? Credit to you as a dad because, I mean, you know, those are just the four in this family. The ones in West Virginia, we don't even, you have to Skype.
Skype them.
Yeah. There's no treat day on Fridays in West Virginia.
No. Well, thanks for doing that, Joe. That's good. That's good to hear.
Maggie, or Mags, as she's known to
Mags.
us and on your arm. My dad means the world to me. He's the person I look up to the most. He's my role model. I don't know what I would do without him in my life and without him threatening to beat up my boyfriend if he ever hurt me. He's so caring and funny and so much more. Although he kind of talks a lot, I wouldn't trade him for the world. I love you so much, Dad.
That's nice. She's grounded.
I think I've said to Maggie that I will also beat up any guy who.
Yeah, there's an ongoing thread at Paul Dwyer High School that the uncles will show up one day in the halls and just start dropping bodies. Like, you know, there's four people that I can call really quick and
just laying them down.
I'll be known as the American.
Yeah. I've got this kid in her class, this big farm boy, Octavius. He's in 10th grade with her, but he's bigger than every kid in the school. So he's got free lunches for a year if I need him to, like, punch some kids in the face. And he's on board. I got a text message from him yesterday wishing me a happy Father's Day. Like, that's cool. Thanks, that's Octavius. Cool. Just stay on the payroll. Thanks, Joe.
Dave, this is obviously Alexander here. What does my dad mean to me? My dad has always been there for me. Even when he would be mad at me, he would always make sure I'm okay after. He's made me the young man I am today. He taught me so much over the past 13 years. He has made me stronger and has shown me ways to make sure the people I love are okay, and how to help people and how to change a fight into a friendship. He has supported me on all the stuff I have done, like skating. I've been skating for almost 2 years now, and he's always saying encouraging stuff to me when I fall and when I can't land a trick. Whenever I ask him if he could film me doing a trick, he will stop what he's doing to help me. Whenever I needed to ride somewhere, even if it's pretty far, he would take me there. Whenever I needed to be picked up, he would stop what he was doing and would come pick me up. My dad is an amazing guy. He's been there for me since day one and hasn't gave up on me. I am so thankful for him. If I didn't have him as my father, I don't think I would be the person I am today. Thank you, Dad.
Sounds like Return of the Jedi. Kind of day.
Or Empire Strikes Back, for that matter.
Empire Strikes Back, whichever one makes him cry the most. That's nice.
Wow. Eric, I have one from Cooper. None from the one you prefer, but I have one from Cooper here.
He's too busy. He's too busy.
Yeah, Parker's too busy.
Too busy
showing
winning.
people all the pictures of him in their house.
But as a kid, it's hard to know why your parents do what they do. And it's not until you're older do you realize the harrowing feats they go through to make sure you grow up right. My father was hard on me, but I know now it was because he saw what I was capable of and always tried driving me to be the best I can be. He sacrificed so much to hide the difficult times so they wouldn't harm me as a child, and it's a debt I could never repay. My dad is the stability in my life. With him around, I never feel like I'm truly lost, as I always have someone I can ask for help. I always have someone who believes in me, even when I don't believe in myself. I would be nothing without him. Thank you for everything you've done for me, Dad. I couldn't ask for a better father. All right. Guys, can you hold on for a second? I have a severe family emergency. Talk amongst yourselves for a moment. Okay? All right. Seriously.
Almost as if on cue. Well, I gotta tell you, I know what you guys do for your kids, and so I can give you with assurance that you guys are awesome dads. You guys work really hard, but I think the one thing that, like I said, my takeaway of this is like it's intentional, and I think a lot of us, and maybe not even our own dads, but maybe their dads, it was a different dynamic back then, and I think a lot of I'd say that the baby boomer dads especially kind of figured out. I think as Gen X dads, we grew up with some of us grew up with the latchkey kid, family as well. And so I think there's a transition. I think it's only now that we can understand like what it means to be there and like the choices you have to make. It has to be a decision to do these types of things.
Yeah. And I think to your point too about the boomers and our dads, we look at different recessions and stuff, and some of the stuff that as we were kids that our parents had to live through and work through, right, just to make ends meet. So like, so I was, I don't think less of my dad because I got maybe more of my, honest to goodness, like way of tackling things from my mom. It's just because and both my parents did work, but they were just, they were just making ends meet, right? Keeping roofs over heads and keeping us busy and doing those things. So I think that's also something to look at as we evolve, right? As generations sort of change and merge.
I apologize about that. That is living a life with a cat that is 17 or 18 years old, blind and deaf, and getting stuck behind a couch. Yeah. So in the end, I mean, what I can say is I love the movie My Life, where the father who's dying tries to shoot videos to give his unborn child direction. And the one thing I'll say is I know my kids love me unconditionally, and I think that's one thing that I never fully understood being a father is how much love you can have for a child, and in turn, sort of how much love you can have for a spouse that gave you the child because of it. Even though that it's a different type of love and it's anger and it's all those things, but my kids, again, just like everybody says, they all say they wouldn't. Your kids said they wouldn't be what they are without them or without you, and I think we can all agree that we wouldn't be who we are without them, because there's such unending love that I feel for my kids that like it can just bring me to tears if I think too hard about it, because of how much I love them and how much I feel in a lot of cases that they need me and I do for them. And in turn, so when I said earlier, because my wife just gave me some grief, when I said like Father's Day isn't too different than other days, and while I talked about needing a trip, what I want to say is like my kids always, we're always a family. Like I know my kids love me. We do movies almost every night through quarantine. Like I showed them my favorite movie of all time last night, and they sat through it. Interestingly enough, Oh Brother Where Art Thou?
Oh, Alex loves that movie.
Yeah, I know. And well, you showed it to him like 8 years ago. So I get it. So I will say, like my kids always provide me the love that I need for the most part, even though they're wise asses and they, mouth off way more than they usually do. I think we are all fortunate for having kids, especially per these letters. We're all fortunate to have kids that love us the way we do. And I think we've all probably done a pretty doggone good and admirable job raising them to be able to have children that can show love and give love to other people.
Thanks for having them do that. That's really awesome.
Yeah, that was really cool.
That was nice.
Thank you. Good Father's Day present.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Really good. Thank you.
Yeah. So with that, gentlemen, I want to say I appreciate all that you do, all you bring to the table as fathers, as men. Again, our kids mean more to us than any of each other, so and that's saying a lot because, as Brent said earlier this week, I think he'd like run through a brick wall for us, and somebody else said they'd take a bullet, and I mean maybe a smaller caliber bullet, but
I take a 22 to the arm. That's
yeah,
maybe
the shoulder.
Some buckshot to the leg.
9mm, like the trapezius muscle. I'd go that
bird
high.
shot, maybe some bird shot.
Yeah. Here, where the doctor says John Wick to him, no organs. But I love you guys. I love the love that we have for our children, and
I love three of you.
what's that? Our fathers raised us. Sometimes it plays a significant role in who we are, and sometimes it doesn't play a role. Something I think we can all agree with is that how we are raising our children is going to play a major impact in their lives.
I really like two of you. I love the other two.
Three of my favorite people.
Hey, toast all the dads out there, okay?
And the moms.
And the moms.
Credit
Yeah.
greeting
Nice
card
job,
bullshit.
Thank you.
Holidays.
All right, gentlemen.
I had to bah humbug it somewhere.
Yeah. And Dave, I'd give you a hug if I were nearby.
I love you,
'cause
buddy.
you're
Yeah.
I'll let you know that's right.
Yeah.
Go hug
You
your
could
kiddo.
drive. You could drive to Dave's this afternoon, Bill, and hug him in the rain. Get there for a fire in the rain.
9-hour round trip there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thanks, guys. I got to run.
Love
Great
you guys.
job, Joe. Great job.
Great job, Joe.
Thank
You guys-
you, Joe.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone. You guys have a good week.